Now, hey everybody, this is Dr. Jess and Paul Burgess. Here's our next installment of Solving the Health Puzzle. Why am I sick? The real reasons. Today we're going to talk about the phrase that I put out: you don't inherit sickness. And the first time I wrote a post about this on Facebook, I got some really good pushback, which means people really believe that they actually inherit illness or sickness. Okay, and I figured today, let's take a look at that and let's find out the real basis of illness. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I'm sad to say it's all a bit of nonsense. And if you're there was an old meme that went around quite a while ago, and it said diabetes runs in my family, and the doctor replied, no, the problem is no one runs in your family. And the
well said.
There is a genetic predisposition to some serious disease, right? And we know that if you have chromosome issues, then yeah, that's something that's happened and there's nothing much we can do about those things. But when you talk about, you know, my grandfather was diabetic, my father was diabetic, I'm diabetic, or I'm bound to be diabetic. The issue we've got behind that is people believe that dialogue to be true and there's no other option. My father died of cancer, was diabetic, had high cholesterol. His mother died of cancer. My mother's mother died of cancer. My mother's father had a stroke, died of pneumonia. There's a lot of cancer going on there. If I look at that scenario, I'll go, okay, likelihood is that's what's going to happen. On top of that, I have a gene that predisposes me to type 2 diabetes, predisposes me to Alzheimer's, and predisposes me to poor deep sleep. So I can look at all that and say, well, I've got no chance. Now, clearly, that's my lot, and that's all that's going to happen. But none of that is true, because your behavior 100% dictates how your genes behave, right? We know that.
Absolutely.
So just because they all had that issue and had those diseases means nothing so far as I'm concerned. What matters is what our behavior is on a daily basis, and does that promote the genes to be switched on, or does it prevent them being switched on?
So I agree with you. So, you know something, for those out there who are scientifically minded or want to take issue with that, because really for most people that is quite a leap. Let me take a few minutes to break all of this down. Okay.
Yes. Can I just say, sorry, before
please
you do,
go ahead.
I just want to put the other perspective there, which is people with supposed fantastic genes die of cancer.
Sure. Absolutely.
Or have heart attacks, or
exactly,
are obese, or whatever. Right? So
right.
It's not really that.
Right. And you always have this, you always have the stories of my grandfather died of, whatever, but he drank every day. He did this, he did that, but of course he was 98 years old.
Yeah.
So let's break it down a little bit. Inherit sickness. Okay. Inherit is a quality or characteristic of predisposition, genetically from one's parents or ancestors. Okay. Sickness, of course, the state of being ill. Okay. So the consideration here is, are your genes your destiny? Well, to a certain degree, yes. To a certain degree, no. Okay. So can you have a genetic disease? Yeah. But we're talking genetic, as you mentioned, chromosomes. Yeah. When we talk genetics, mostly, generally, we're talking about the epigenome as opposed to the genome.
Correct.
The genome is your hardwiring. Okay. The epigenome, the things that you're familiar with, like the transsulfuration pathway or the biopterin pathway, create neurotransmitters, or any of the liver phase 1, phase 2, where you're doing detoxification. That's what you're really talking about. If you have an actual genetic genome addition or deletion, it's going to be present at birth. Think about the kids with Down syndrome. Every child has a little blood spot taken to check for phenylketonuria. Okay, because if that's present, which is an inherited lack of an enzyme, uh, they will become mentally retarded if you give them a diet with phenylalanine in it. But our epigenetic aberrations, the SNPs that we call them, polymorphisms, you know, are differences in the enzymatic activity in the epigenome. So what does that all mean anyway? Okay, the fact is that when somebody's diagnosed, let's say with an autoimmune disease, okay, or most anything that they can look back and, as you mentioned, diabetes and so forth, if it were an actual genetic problem, it would be present at birth. My question to everybody has always been, why now? Okay, why now? Even autistic children, okay, who show symptoms early in life, if you dig into their history, there's a root cause. There is something that sets off the genetic predisposition. So if you have a genetic predisposition to something, does that mean you're going to get it? Not necessarily. Okay. What? So if you have a genetic predisposition to Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, the stretching, your skin and your connective tissue stretches too much, doesn't mean you're going to get it. But the problem is that if you go look at a diagnosis like Sjogren's or rheumatoid arthritis or anything that you consider autoimmune, or any diagnosis that when you look at somebody, it says it stinks to be you, the medical literature is replete with indicators of how you will progress.
Yeah.
Okay, what will happen to you as time goes on. And I have a lot of experience with this. In New Zealand, I had a patient who had children with a syndrome very similar to Down syndrome. And she said, can you change that? And I said, no, I can't change the genetic deletion or addition or aberration. Okay, but what I can do is optimize their condition. So when you look at what happens to somebody like this, okay, that doesn't have to be. So if you correct everything, go ahead.
I think also people have to get a slightly different view on things. And I think it's more accurate to say your gene setup, whatever your genetics are, in some people, it will just make you more susceptible to the modern world, right? Because we've got so much modern crap going on, toxicity and pollutants and poor food and screens and social media and all the modern disease causing things. And some genetics are just not set up for it. Mm-hmm. And they're actually more susceptible to that. Other genomes or gene setups are a little bit more resilient to it, right? So it's not quite as troublesome for it. But we have to also remember that we've got the highest rates of cardiovascular disease, obesity, diabetes, cancer, Alzheimer's, and dementia that we've ever had in the history of the world. No matter what your genes are, right? People are getting those diseases. And also, if it was only about the genes, when they cracked the genome, they'd have fixed everything. Right? There's nothing been cured since then. We didn't cure cancer, we didn't cure Alzheimer's, we didn't cure dementia, none of that stuff. All that's happened is it's gone up in incidence. So whilst we can be more susceptible to some of the poor modern world influences, so long as we're aware of that, we can decide to make a difference in our behavior to that, right? So if you want to drink tap water that's full of whatever, and you've got a poor detoxification pathway, or you've got some brain issues or whatever that's probably on the cards, maybe it's worth you changing to some type of filtration system, right? Or if you know that Alzheimer's and dementia are maybe susceptible in your genome, then you might turn around and say, well, I need to get more sleep, right? To focus on that. So your belief will then dictate your behavior, which we're always talking about. And if your belief is I need to get to bed at 10 p.m., that's what you'll do. And that's the kind of thing you can do to prevent those things getting switched on.
I'll
And
make, go ahead.
and once you get your head around that kind of thing, that the modern world is really set up to cause us a lot of these problems, to speed them up, it accelerates them. Then we go, okay, how do I prevent myself from being exposed to that stuff? And that gives me the best chance.
Let me bottom line a little bit of this from the things that I'm constantly bombarded with. Okay. I'm on Facebook and, answer a lot of questions. The polymorphins, the SNPs that you have, people come to me and say, I have MTHFR or I have the BRCA2 gene. And guess what? It's your belief. This is where it starts. It's your belief that this will cause that runs how your body goes. If you have the BRCA2 gene, I won't get into the technicalities of it, I'm going to get breast cancer. So what has been the answer? Let's pull out the target organs. Let's take out your breasts. Let's take out your uterus and your ovaries. Let's put you right into menopause. And that's going to prevent the illness, the sickness, the cancer from happening. No, okay? The presence of a polymorphism SNP does not mean you're ill, and the absence does not mean you're well. In other words, a pathway that looks wonderful, okay, can still be overwhelmed by the toxicity in the society and then give you the result that does. On the other hand, if you have a pathway that is inherently just doesn't work as well as the next person, okay, if you put a bunch of toxicity into yourself, that's what it's going to have to fight, and you won't get the products you're looking for. It is the belief that this will happen. It's the belief that if you have an autistic child, that this is what's going to happen, down, 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 and I don't know what's going to happen after I pass. Okay. And for those methylation people out there, okay, the methylation pathway, which is not just MTHFR, I would go crazy because that's what I'm asked constantly. It's a single gene in a very extensive pathway. The whole purpose of the methylation pathway is to produce SAM, which takes methyl groups and puts them into the genome to properly turn on or turn off genes. Okay, because that's the way our body works. Okay, certain things should express, certain things shouldn't express. So what do you do about it? Okay, Paul talks about, we'll talk about optimization, and all that means is it starts off with the belief that it ain't necessarily so. What I'm thinking ain't necessarily so. If I know, if I believe, if I in my heart say this set of circumstances predispose, I'm going to get that. It's just a matter of when. Okay, you have no control, and you're saying, hey, it's a roll of the cosmic dice. And the more you believe it, the more it becomes true. If you challenge it and say, not necessarily, then all of a sudden you've got control over the situation. Then what do you do about it? I mean, you can't leave the planet, okay? But you can do things. First off, changing your belief. You can do things to not let that predisposition express itself. In other words, optimize your pathways. You don't even have to think of it that deep. Okay, it's more general. So it's your belief in your habits. Changing your habits so that you optimize your health is the real basis of why you're sick, right?
We see, and this is another thing that is difficult because we see it physically if we treat an autistic child and then all of a sudden you get a call from the parent saying they're sat at the dinner table, they're instigating conversation, they're calm, they're almost like they're normal, right? And you're hang on a minute.
Those calls I love, they make me cry.
You said they weren't normal before. It's just, they just had to live a slightly different behavioral pattern. They got to change their behaviors a bit because what they were doing before was causing some issues. We see it though. We see the change. Most people don't ever see that. All they do is they get information from the society, like Autistic Society or whatever it says, no, this is what happens. There's nothing can change it. And they're good meaning people. We know they are, but they just
nobody's doing anything wrong.
Those improvements. And then we see it in other patients that have got other things that, okay, their type 2 diabetes isn't there anymore, or the cholesterol that all their family had and they've all been on statins on this person actually is normal, and they can't work it out. There must be something they must be taking something for it. You go, not so much, but they're not exposing themselves to these everyday issues that might be causing the problems. But it's because we see it and we know it works that we believe it.
Mhm.
But people haven't seen it. It's very much like, yeah, but there's too much noise. The influence is too loud from the normal doctors and the
Yeah,
clients
the common
to hear
information
what
out
they're
there.
saying. So you can't really shout above that stuff. It's very much like when you say, if you're trying to convince somebody that what they've believed all their life isn't their choice, they've been influenced by massive marketing companies to behave in a certain way and believe things that actually are bad for them. It's very difficult for them to grasp that concept. So if you look at any advertising, let's just take TV advertising, you never see a beer commercial with someone, thrown up all over themselves and laying flat on the floor in the middle of the road and can't get his keys out of his pocket. All you see are people having a great time, smiling, enjoying company, having a wonderful life, and that's part of it. And if you want that wonderful life, this should be part of it. It's the same with pizza or burger or whatever it is. And there's none of those ads where people are obese and sick and tired and they can't remember their own name and this kind of stuff going on. It's all about, we share it with the family. It's amazing. And it's this and that. And so all of that stuff has influenced your beliefs as to what is normal. And then when you say, look, I need you to just eat whole foods, stop eating this, start doing that, they're going, I can't do that. That's not normal. Right. And then they have the opposite. And then they have the next problem, which is, okay, well, I'll do that for 6 months and then I can go back to doing what I was doing, right?
Right.
Exactly. You go, no, we're trying to undo all of this nonsense over here that you've been influenced by all your life and make you show that this isn't what's normal. All that stuff is not normal. And if you start doing this, those genes that you're worrying about switching on won't switch on. Or the ones that are already started to switch on and you're seeing these high blood glucose or the high cholesterol, they will reverse and stop. But it's very difficult to get people to realize that everything they've been told all their life is a bit of a lie, really. And you need to change that opinion.
I agree. So essentially what we're asking you to do is think about this. If you're ill, especially if you have a chronic illness, which is most people we treat, okay, look at yourself and say, what do I believe? Okay, what do I believe about myself in this illness? And if you're ready to go rogue, okay, in other words, fight all this other stuff, because Paul is absolutely correct. I remember the aspirin commercials from my childhood. This is for your daily headaches, okay, whatever it was. Belief that we have daily headaches. Then another company would say, headache number 1, I won't say the product, this headache number 2. It became a joke, but headaches were normal. They're not normal, okay? But they were telling us it was normal. Remember that the pharmaceutical industry and the entirety of the medical profession, not the doctors, but the way it's been run, has been created these days to manage chronic illness, not to cure it. Okay, I can be really cynical and ask you, is there more money in treating cancer or curing cancer? Okay, is there more money in treating diabetes or curing diabetes? Okay, so without that cynicism, go back to your belief system and say, is this my lot in life? Go, and if you're ready to go rogue, call one of us. We'll be happy to chat with you, because the answers are not what you think they are. Okay,
there's so much to it, honestly. Firstly, we're hardwired as humans to solve problems,
right?
And we solve them from our own experience. And so all we can do is go back to our experience and go, okay, when I cut myself, I use a Band-Aid or a plaster and I put that on. But if we're ill, then we go back to, have you ever had this before? No. Okay, well then I need to do what I do with every other problem. And nowadays it's pick up your phone and look at Google. and you
Mhm.
type in the symptom and it says
Doctor.
tumor or it says whatever, right?
Ah, Dr. Google, my enemy.
Or you go on YouTube or whatever, and someone's there saying, look, if you've got these symptoms, this is the product you need. And so, okay, well, that sounds like me, because every product is fatigue, bloating, weight loss, sex
Right.
drive, sleep, right? They all cure everything, right? So, oh yeah, that sounds like me. That's what I need. I've got a maca root deficiency or an aloe vera root. That's what's going to cure my
Yeah.
thing, right? And that's fine, but it doesn't work. And it doesn't work because that's not the problem. And you will never find the solution to the problem because it's not your business. You don't have 20 years of experience or 30 or 40 years of experience in this industry. You don't spend day and night looking at research and looking at books and understanding where these things are coming from. How can you be expected to know what to do? So the sooner people realize, actually, it's not for me to fix. I need to get somebody else that's got the experience, and I need to listen to what they say. The sooner you get better. And I'll leave it with this because otherwise I'll talk too much. There's a saying, it's on my Twitter, it's a pinned tweet on
You talk too much? Never.
yeah. It's all good stuff though.
I know.
There's a saying that says, if you've got good health, you've got 1,000 goals. If you've got bad health, you've got one goal. And what we do, both of us, in our business that people don't understand is we take people who only have one goal, we fix it, and then we give them a life which has got 1,000 goals and
Exactly.
every opportunity to be happy and enjoy every day and wake up with this attitude of, I can't wait to see something amazing today because I'm going to go and search for it. And that's my radar is on. What can I find today that's going to be amazing? Because I'm not worried about the other stuff because that's all dealt with.
Right.
So few people live that life. That's the problem. And we
It's
need to get more people to go, actually, I fancy a bit of that life.
Yeah.
What has to happen? How do I get to that place? It's not easy. It's not a quick fix. It's not
No, it
elevate.
isn't.
It's long, but when you get there, the payoff is enormous.
So in conclusion, let me just sum up. You don't inherit sickness. You inherit your genes, your epigenome, and you have full control over those issues. It's your belief system that you don't have control, or this is your lot in life, that is the very basis of your illness at present. And you may not think so, but if you're willing to go rogue and challenge those beliefs, you'll find the road is doable. Didn't say easy, because depending whether if it's complex and multifactorial, you're going to need a guide, a coach to help you through that, because although the basic stuff you could probably do yourself, clean water, clean air, good food, stuff like that, handling the nuances of the other parts of the illness to bring you back to where your body functions is what Paul and I do. The combination of that, your willingness, changing your belief and saying, this, I can heal. This is not my lot in life. Once you achieve that, all of a sudden, you're not thinking about your health all day. Your life becomes bright, becomes doable. You're going to be there for yourself, for your family, for your spouse, for your significant other, however you want to put it. But that's what's called having an amazing life.
Yeah. And also remember, your beliefs have come from somewhere that's not your choice.
Right.
Like
You're
you've
not.
been influenced to believe that stuff for other people's benefit. So
Absolutely.
and I know it all sounds cynical and we're like, we're against the world, revolution. It's not about that. It's about, that's just the world we live in.
Right. We have been, exactly. And something, people, I want you to think about it, especially those people out there who, are suffering, and, from anything you can think of. Okay. We can go through list. I want you to think, I want you to really get quiet and think about, do I really believe this is my lot in life? Okay. And once you say no, once you say, gee, this is not my lot in life, then all of a sudden it can be done. Okay. I'm going to give you one final example, then we're going to get out of here. If I tell you you have schizophrenia, okay, you're going to look at me and essentially feel my life is over. I'm going to have to take medications I'm not going to be able to live a good life, so forth and so on. But if I look at you and say, those voices you've been hearing or things you've been seeing um, are really a result of super high dopamine that's coming from from the inflammation from a nasty leaky gut syndrome. And that's been caused by a combination of chronic Lyme disease, anaplasma, yeast, and HHV6. The only thing you can look at me and say is, okay, doc, how do we fix it? Because I've told you had two same things. Okay. If I tell you I have schizophrenia, it's permanent, it stinks to be me. But if I tell you you have the other set of things, which is giving you the same symptoms, all of a sudden it becomes possible to fix, not only possible, but probable. Okay. And that you have to change your belief system to even go in that other direction. So anyway, this is the whole idea that I want everybody to know, we want everybody to know that your genes are not your lot in life, that your illness is not predisposed, that you do have control over it. And the only thing required at this time is to go rogue. Okay. And stop thinking that. And then if you open that up, you just decide to go rogue. I'm just not going to believe this. I'm going to go against everything. I'm going to go rogue. Okay. Then you can heal. You can contact one of us and we're happy to chat with you about it, or at least start down the road of the belief that you don't have to live like this.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. Talk to you soon again.
See you soon, Jess.
All right. Bye-bye.